That was quite a meeting we had on business and trade and technology. This trip has galvanized $350 billion in deals across many sectors, and we're committed to ensuring that the UK has a secure and reliable supply of the best AI hardware and software on Earth. And we supply that, and we'll make sure we supply it in quantity to the UK. We also are joining forces on quantum computing and nuclear power, a natural partnership for close allies. The United States, as you probably have heard, is doing better than it has ever done in terms of business and investment. The stock market has hit a new high, as you know, and that's for many, many days out of our fairly short 8 months. And we seem to be hitting new highs, and I think we're going to do much better even as time goes by. Jobs are at a record, and most importantly, we have more than $17 trillion, $17 trillion, and this is during an 8-month period being invested in the country, which is not only a record, but if you compare $17 trillion to the last year of the Biden administration, they did $250 billion. They didn't do $1 trillion for the 4-year period. We did $17 trillion of investment coming in. A lot of it's because of tariffs, and a lot of it's for a lot of other reasons, but there's never been anything like it. It's an economic superstar. That's what's become. It was mismanaged and badly handled for a long period of time, but it's not badly handled anymore. So that's a record, and remember, that's up until 8 months. We have another few months to go, and that number is going to get significantly higher, especially if we win a certain case that we're waiting to hear. That will be something like the world has never seen. I want to congratulate the United Kingdom on making the vital commitment to spend 5% of GDP on defense at the NATO summit this year. We've worked together very closely in so many ways. I'm very honored to tell you that we've solved 7 wars, wars that were unsolvable, wars that couldn't be negotiated or done. The U.S. has done 7 of them. The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin, but he's let me down. He's really let me down. It was going to be Russia and Ukraine, but we'll see how that turns out. But that turned out to be, I thought it might be among the easiest of the group, but we had settled just about every conflict, and as you know, we're working very hard on Israel and Gaza. All that's happening over there. Complex, but it's going to get done. It'll all get done right. And likewise, Russia and Ukraine will get done. But you never know in war. You know, war is a different thing. Things happen that are very opposite of what you thought. You thought you were going to have an easy time or a hard time, and it turns out to be the reverse. As we saw in the unforgettable parade yesterday at Windsor Castle, what a place it is. The British Armed Forces carry on one of the finest military traditions in the world, one of the greatest marching bands, one of the most magnificent sights I've seen. I know that our service members look forward, and we do look so forward to working even more closely with yours as you push toward that 5% goal. And I think, Mr. Prime Minister, you're just about there. You're going to be there very quickly, along with a lot of other great countries. I want to thank NATO and our wonderful head of NATO, who's really worked very hard, Mark, for the job they've done. As you know, NATO was at 2% GDP, and they didn't pay it. Now they're at 5%, then they pay it. And we appreciate that. And we're sending a lot of weapons to NATO. NATO is paying for those weapons in full. But we're sending them, and we're doing a great job at getting them what they need. And we appreciate the fact that they're taken care of, because the United States is into that war for $350 billion. And just really very sad. Just got out of control. They didn't know what they were doing. But over the generations, British and American warriors have shed their blood side by side in defense of liberty and freedom. And that's why it's so imperative that the United States and the United Kingdom stand together for these fundamental rights and values of the English-speaking world, and we've always stood together, and we will continue to. Just last week, a great American, Charlie Kirk, was heinously assassinated for speaking his mind. He was a great young man, incredible future. Some people said he might be president someday. I told him, I said, Charlie, I think you have a good shot someday at being president. And he just wanted to take care of youth. He loved youth. I've never seen anybody relate to youth like Charlie, and they related to him, and they're devastated. But I appreciate the many British citizens who have offered their condolences. And again, Charlie was a great person. We'll be going out to a service on Sunday. I'll be leaving with some of the people in this room just to celebrate Charlie and all that he's done. So incredible. Never seen anything like it. But I hope that together our nations can lead a movement to defend the glorious traditions of freedom on both sides of the Atlantic. There could be no greater tribute to the immortal bonds of affection and loyalty that unite the British and the American people for all of time. We have a relationship like no other. It will always be that way. We will always be united. We'll always be together. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for the great job I think you're doing. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We're going to take some questions. I'll call 2 or 3 to start with, and then I'll pass over to the President. I've got Chris Mason from the BBC first. Chris.
Thank you both. Chris Mason, BBC News. Mr. President, the UK is expected to recognise a Palestinian state in the coming days as the killing in Gaza continues. It often seems that you're the only person that Israel will listen to. What more can you say to them to tell them to stop? And why is the UK's position on a Palestinian state, in your view, wrong? And Prime Minister, what will the recognition of a Palestinian state actually achieve? Is it not just gesture politics to appease people in your own party? Thank you both.
Well, Chris, let me just start with that, because we discussed this amongst other things. We had the best part of an hour, I think, upstairs earlier today, just one-to-one, going through a number of affairs, world affairs, in private. And we absolutely agree on the need for peace and a roadmap, because the situation in Gaza is intolerable. The hostages have been held for a very, very long time, and they must be freed. And we need aid to get into Gaza at speed. And so it's within that context of a plan for peace, which we're working hard on, which not only did we discuss this morning, but our 2 teams have been working together on, that the question of recognition needs to be seen. And so it's part of that overall package which hopefully takes us from the appalling situation we're in now to the outcome of a safe and secure Israel, which we do not have, and a viable Palestinian state. Thank you.
Well, simply, I want the hostages released now, right now, not 1, 2, we'll give you 3 more tomorrow, and, you know, like it's been, but we're the ones that got all the hostages released. We got many, many came to the Oval Office, and I've heard stories like I've never thought even possible. There was no humanity, no anything. I said to them, I said, was there any warmth shown during this stay, like they offered you a little extra meal, they gave you a little smile, and they said, don't worry, you'll be okay. And every one of them said, not even a little bit. Amazing, you know, to think that during this stay, long stay in some cases. We had a man the other day, 451 days he was there. I always ask that question. And was there any warmth shown? Just a little word of, you know, encouragement. And the answer is every time, absolutely not. I'm shocked to hear it, because in the worst cases, there's always somebody that comes through. We have to remember October 7th, one of the worst, most violent days in the history of the world, not just there, the history of the world. And I got to see the tapes, and I wish I didn't see them, actually, but I got to see them. And I want an end. I want the hostages released, and I think it's going to be okay, but it has been a brutal period of time. But this has been going on for a long time. This is not something that's over the last year, 2 years, but this has been for decades and decades. But we want it to end. We have to have the hostages back immediately. That's what the people of Israel want. They want them back. And we want the fighting to stop. And it's going to stop. But a lot of bad things. You know, Hamas said that they're going to put the hostages up as bait. They're going to put the hostages in front of any attack. And that's pretty brutal. We haven't heard that one in a long time. So we have to remember that. So I have a disagreement with the Prime Minister on that score. Okay? One of our few disagreements, actually.
Great. Can I take Jack from The Sun? Jack.
Thank you both. Jack Elson from The Sun. Mr. President, in the 9 months you've been in office, you've been incredibly successful in all but eliminating crossings on your southern border.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, illegal migration is at record levels in Britain. The Prime Minister is trying to tackle that. What advice would you give to the man standing next to you on trying to stop illegal migration in Britain? And Prime Minister, if I can just ask, the President is all about drill, baby, drill in terms of trying to secure American energy and cut bills for Americans. Meanwhile, you are turning Britain's back on oil and gas in favour of renewable energies, such as wind turbines. Why do you think that you are right and he is wrong?
So we had millions of people flowing in, totally unchecked, totally unvetted from the Biden administration. 25 million, in my opinion, that would be about 25 million. They came from prisons, they came from mental institutions, they were gang members, they were drug dealers. They came from the Congo. They came from all parts of South America. They came from everywhere. Think of it. Prisons from the Congo being released into the United States. Prisons opened up in Venezuela and many other countries pouring into the United States. And I couldn't believe it. And one of the reasons I decided to run. I decided to run because I don't want to be controversial. But you see what's happened, and you see all the information that's come out. We won in 2020 big. And I said, let's run. We got to run, because I saw what was happening. And the worst thing that I saw was all of these people. You know, we've already solved inflation. We've solved prices. Oil is way down. Energy is way down in the United States. But what I saw happening with millions of people pouring into our country, I couldn't stand to watch it. And we've done a great job. Nobody, if you've seen the last, I appreciate your question, by the way, nobody, absolutely zero, and I'm not even sure that's possible, but it's a very liberal group that come out with those statistics. The last 3 months, we had zero. From millions of people a year ago, we had zero people enter our country illegally. And we do have people coming in legally through a legal process and testing and lots of other things. I think it's very important, and we speak about it, and I think your situation is very similar. You know, you have people coming in, and I told the Prime Minister I would stop it, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use, but it's going to destroys countries from within. And we're actually now removing a lot of the people that came into our country. It's a very hard chore. We were given a very, very bad hand. Millions of people came in from prisons and mental institutions. We have to remove them. And we are removing them. We have no choice, and I feel very strongly about it. Thank you very much.
Jack, let me just deal with the question of returns, because this is obviously an issue we're taking incredibly seriously. We've struck a number of deals, both on cooperation with other countries, because this is a problem right across Europe, to tackle the problem of actually breaking up the gangs that are running this trade. We have had a record number of returns, over 35,000 now, since we came into office. That's the highest number for the best part of 10 years. We struck the returns arrangement with France, and notwithstanding the challenges to that scheme, which you've seen in the last few days, a flight went off at 6:15 this morning, successfully returning someone under that scheme. So that is an important step forward. Obviously, there's no silver bullet here. There's a range of things that need to be done. But given the challenges of returning people, it is important that we're able to prove it can be done. It was done. It was done early this morning. So I can confirm that that flight went. It went successfully. And I'm pleased about that. Now we need to ramp that up at scale, which was always envisaged under the scheme. But it's very important that we have been able to prove that the proof of concept, if you like, that this can be done, and will continue in that way. On the question of energy, firstly, let me be really clear that I am absolutely determined to ensure that the price and cost of energy comes down, so that bills come down both for individuals, for families, with their household bills, but also for business, because this is so important. The mix will include oil and gas for many years to come from the North Sea. We've been clear about that for some time, but we also need to mix that with renewables, and it's the mix that's really important. And the approach I've taken on this is the same approach that I take to many other things, a pragmatic approach. Thank you, Jack.
I would like to say that we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. We had inflation, the likes of which we've really never seen. They say 48 years, and I'll accept that, but I really don't. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country. And we had a expression that I used a lot, drill, baby, drill. And as you know, we brought fuel way down, the prices way down. And we don't do wind because wind is a disaster. It's a very expensive joke, frankly. And we got our energy prices way down. That brought the inflation way down. And now we have very little inflation. And we have a very, very strong economy. So that was very important. Drill, baby, drill. And you have a great asset here. And we spoke about it. It's called the North Sea. The North Sea oil is phenomenal. And I hope, because I love this country, you know, my mother was born in Scotland. And the Hebrides, Stornoway, that's Syria, Scotland. We were talking about it. And I want this country to do well. And you have great assets that you're going to start using, I believe, under this Prime Minister.
Thank you. And I've got Matthew from The Economist. Matthew.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Mr. President, you say that President Putin has let you down. Have negotiations run out of road, and what are your next steps to compel an end to this war?
Well, he has let me down. I mean, he's killing many people, and he's losing more people than he's killing. Yeah. I mean, frankly, the Russian soldiers are being killed at a higher rate than the Ukrainian soldiers. But, yeah, he said, let me down. I don't like to see. It's death. You know, it doesn't affect the United States. We have, other than unless you end up in a world war over this thing, you could. This was a thing that would have never happened had I been president. If I were president, it would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. Most people agree it didn't happen, nor was it close to happening. And I spoke to President Putin about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. I've said that many times. It was. But he would have never done what he did, except that he didn't respect the leadership of the United States. They just went through the Afghanistan total disaster for no reason whatsoever. We're going to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to leave it with strength and dignity. And we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base, one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back because they need things from us. We want that base back. But one of the reasons we want the base is, as you know, it's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. So a lot of things are happening, but I am very disappointed in the fact that that one's not settled. To think that we settled Azerbaijan and Albania as an example, it was going on for years. It was never going to be settled. If you remember, the Prime Minister and the presidents, they were there for many years. They said, when they were in my office, we settled. And they started off at both sides of the Oval Office, so far away. I didn't know you could be so far away. And as we were together for an hour, they kept getting closer, closer. And by the time we finished, we all hugged each other. And one said, I've been in this position for 22 years, and all I've done is kill their people. The other was there for 7 years, and all he did was kill their people. And we got it settled. And we did others, as you know. The Congo, we settled the Congo with Rwanda. That was going on, and that was a machete war. That was a gruesome war. Many people, close to 10 million people killed. We got that. So my biggest disappointment, but it's, you know, look, we did 7, and most of them were not thought to be settleable. We did India, and we did Pakistan. That's 2 nuclear. That was purely for trade. You want to trade with us, you're going to have to get along. And they were going at it hot and heavy. But the Russia situation, I hope we're going to have some good news for you coming up. But again, it doesn't affect the United States. And look, it doesn't so much affect you. Of course, you are a lot closer to the scene than we are. We have a whole ocean separating us. But I will say this, Millions of people have died in that war, millions of souls, and they're not American. The soldiers, mostly soldiers, as you know. The soldiers are being killed at levels that nobody's seen since the Second World War. But they're being killed, and I feel I have an obligation to get it settled for that reason. Thank you.
And just to add on that question, because we have to put extra pressure on Putin. And it's only when the President has put pressure on Putin that he's actually shown any inclination to move. So we have to ramp that pressure up. I think it's important to have this conversation in the context of what's happened in recent weeks. We saw damage and bombing to the British Council in Kyiv. These are targets that it was thought until recently were not targets that would be hit. The British Council, the European Union Embassy, the Council of Ministers, where President Zelensky's ministers' work was hit. Again, these were thought to be places that wouldn't be hit. And then the incursion into Poland last week. And if you put that together, what you can see is either an emboldenment or at least an increased recklessness on Putin's part. And that's why I said earlier that they're not the actions of someone who wants peace. So we have to ramp up. And we discussed earlier today, we have built the coalition of the willing with British leadership and French leadership, stepping up with military planning in the seas, in the sky, on the ground, and ramping up what we do with the Ukrainians themselves. And of course, that, taken with an American guarantee, is now an example, I think, of the challenge of Europe stepping up to the plate, which it has done in the last few months, to show through what we and the French have done that we're prepared to take the lead in this and take the necessary measures.
But that's a war that could have been a third world war, and I don't think we're going to be there now. But that was heading to a third world war, and what a shame it is. What a shame it is.
Mr. President, do you want to call some of the
I would love to call a
outlets?
few of them. Bev, do you want to have a question?
I've got to come back to you.
Bev Turner, GB News. Thank you. Having been in DC for a few weeks, it's really interesting to see how you run the country as a proud Christian leader. And it really begs the question to the Prime Minister, if you don't mind, are we still a Christian country? But also...
when you say we, are you talking here or...
Here. The
Here?
UK. I'm still British. I might
I'd
live in
rather
America.
have
I'm
him
still
answer
British.
that question.
But also,
I can't give you that answer.
that's for the Prime Minister. But also, despite what we talked about in Scotland a few weeks ago, we still have 12,000 people a year here being arrested for social media posts, for free speech violations. Does that not remain an important area that there is still a lot of disagreement on?
I'd like to have you answer that.
Yeah, look, I mean, in terms of a Christian country, I was christened, so that is, my church has been all my life, and we are, that is wired into our informal constitution. Of course, we celebrate many other faiths as well, and I'm really proud that we're able to do so as a country. And on free speech, that has long lived in this country, free speech. It's one of the founding values of the United Kingdom, and we protect it jealously and fiercely, and always will, and we will bear down on any limits on free speech. I draw a limit between free speech and the speech of those that want to peddle paedophilia and suicide social media to children, and therefore I'm all for free speech. I'm also for protecting children from things that will harm them, paedophiles, those that peddle suicide, which had a terrible consequence for individual, particularly teenagers. And so that's the balance we strike. But we have had freedom of speech in this country for a very long time, and we will always protect it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Brian, please.
Thank you. Prime Minister, it's good to see you again. You have a beautiful country. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being
Two
here.
questions. One, just recently, President Trump labeled Antifa domestic terrorists. Would you consider doing something like that in your country?
Well, we obviously will take decisions for ourselves. I don't want to comment on the decisions of the President, but we take our decisions ourselves.
And my question to you, President Trump, is there any update on the auto pen?
Yeah, it's just gotten worse from their standpoint. The people that used it, and in particular one person, was never told by Biden to do it. Only spoke to Biden twice, and that was just talking about the weather, not talking about any order. And he was taking orders from people other than Joe Biden. Joe Biden wasn't giving those orders. You know, Joe Biden didn't believe in open borders. He didn't. I've known him for a long time. He was never the brightest bulb in the ceiling, as we know. You can go back 40 years ago and you'll see that. Go back and take a look at the hearings on Justice Thomas, and you'll see that very much. But he didn't believe in open borders and all of this nonsense that they're peddling now, which is why they're not in office any longer. It's a shame. The auto pen was illegal. It was illegally used. He never gave the orders. He never told them what to do. And I guess the only one he signed, or one of the few he signed, was the pardon for his son. But you had the congressman who, when they got the information, they found out they were guilty, and they deleted and destroyed all information, everything. You couldn't get any of it. They found out that Nancy Pelosi actually was offered the 10,000 soldiers, and she turned them down. They found out many things that were very bad. So they deleted and destroyed all information. You talk about freedom of the press and freedom of speech. How about that one? And there's not a thing. This is after a year and a half of hearings. They destroyed everything. And somebody's got to be held responsible. So Biden, what he did is they knew, I don't think he knew, but somebody knew. I don't think Biden had a clue about anything, if you want to know the truth. But they gave a pardon to those Congress people. They gave a pardon. Those people are so guilty. They gave a pardon. But Biden didn't know about it. The people, whether it's Lisa or any of those people in there that really ran it, I know them all. And they're sick people. They're smart people. They're very smart. They're probably brilliant, but they're sick in ideology. And they were running the auto pen. And it was totally illegal what he did. And I hope it's going to be so adjudged.
Do you want to take one more, then I'll
Okay.
go back to British.
Let's see. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. In the deal that you're working on for the Chinese to sell TikTok to an American buyer, are the Americans going to have to come up with their own algorithm, or are they going to continue to use the successful but addictive Chinese algorithm?
So what we're doing, and we're speaking to President Xi on Friday to see if we can finalize something on TikTok, because there is tremendous value, and I hate to give away value, but I like TikTok. It helped get me elected. In fact, Charlie said, "Sir, you ought to get on TikTok. You'd be great." I said, "Really? Tell me about TikTok." And we, as you know, we did unbelievably well with youth, like at a level that no Republican has ever even dreamt of. And in what, you know, look, I think we won it for a lot of reasons, but that was a reason we won the election by such a big number. TikTok has tremendous value. The United States has that value in its hand because we're the ones that have to approve it. I specifically get the right to approve it. The people that are investing it are among the greatest investors in the world, the biggest, the richest, and they'll do a great job. And we're doing it in conjunction with China. But we are getting, the United States is getting a tremendous fee plus, I call it a fee plus, for just making the deal. And I don't want to throw that out the window. I can say this, that you'll have a lot of very unhappy youth. And I use TikTok very legitimately, very straight, just statements every day, little statements, short statements. "Sir, make it short, please." And TikTok Jack, we call him. It was pretty good. Did a good job for me, I guess. But no, I'd rather reap the benefits. I mean, the kind of money we're talking about is very substantial, and it'll be owned by all American investors and, you know, the best investors and the, you know, very rich people and companies are going to be owning it. Very, very straight, very legitimate companies, and really companies that love America. So they're going to be owning it. It's a big thing. And on a much bigger scale, and probably that's why we were able to get that, but on a much bigger scale, we're pretty close to a deal. We may do an extension with China, but it's an extension based on the same terms that we have right now, which are pretty good terms.
And my question for Prime Minister Starmer, if you feel so strongly about officially recognizing Palestine for statehood, why are you waiting for President Trump to leave the country? Why can't you just do it right now? And isn't there a risk in rewarding Hamas with that?
Well, let me be really clear about Hamas. They're a terrorist organisation who can have no part in any future governance in Palestine. And what happened on October the 7th was the worst attack since the Holocaust. We have extended family in Israel. I understand firsthand the psychological impact that that had across Israel. So I know exactly where I stand in relation to Hamas. Hamas, of course, don't want a two-state solution. They don't want peace. They don't want a ceasefire. I'm very clear where I stand on Hamas. Okay. On the question of recognition, I made my position clear at the end of July as to the timing, which has got nothing to do with this state visit, and I've discussed it with the President, as you would expect amongst two leaders who respect each other and like each other and want to bring about a better solution in the best way that we can. Thank you so much. Can I go back then to Robert at ITV?
Robert Person, ITV. Mr. President, you uniquely, you alone in the whole world, have the power to persuade Prime Minister Netanyahu to stop the demolition of Gaza City, to stop the starvation of Palestine, and to stop the killing of civilians. If not now, when will you exercise that power and tell him to stop?
Sure.
And then for both of you...
But you do understand about October 7th.
You do understand. So believe me, I understand.
One of the worst days in the history of humanity. What happened, I have seen the tapes. Babies that are 4 months old and just chopped up to pieces. And you've seen the tapes and I've seen the tapes. You're a professional and so am I. And people forget about October 7th. I can't forget about it. So I want it to end, but I want the hostages back. I don't want the hostages used as human shields, which is what Hamas is threatening to do.
But as soon as they're back, that's the moment you will tell Netanyahu
well,
to stop.
It would certainly help, but I have to have the hostages back. And I don't want them back piecemeal, as I said before. I want them back.
And on a separate issue, free speech, your Vice President, Vance, said that free speech is under attack in the UK. Do you agree with him? And Prime Minister, we saw the dismissal of a very well-known chat show host in America last night, Mr. Kimmel. Is free speech more under attack in Britain or America?
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you know, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, on the question of Charlie Kirk, can I just express how shocking that is, I think, to everybody who believes in free speech and in democracy. It sent shockwaves through the world, and I know that he was a friend of the President, and I reached out straight away to the President because I understood how impactful it would be on him and his family. And we all need to be absolutely clear about that. Whatever our political views, it is shocking and is to be condemned. On free speech, not much to add to the answer I gave earlier. This country's had free speech for a very, very long time. It is part of who we are as a country, and it is the values that we fought for. We fought for it during the Second World War alongside each other. So we need no reminding of the importance of free speech in this country. Thank you, Robert. And I go to Beth for the final question, please. Beth.
Thank you so much.
Sky.
Thank you, Beth Rigby, Sky News. Thank you, Prime Minister. If I could start with you. Prime Minister, President Trump has said he's ready to impose major sanctions on Russia if NATO countries stop purchasing Russian oil. He's got a point, hasn't he? Is that what you now believe is needed to bring Putin properly to the table? And what's your message to the President on US sanctions? And Mr. President, if I may, the King praised your personal commitment last night to finding solutions to the world's most intractable conflicts. You have invested much of your time and effort in Ukraine. But even as you seek to broker a deal, President Putin is escalating the war. He's firing drones into NATO airspace. You say he has let you down. Was it a mistake to invite him to Alaska? Do you regret it?
No.
And is it time to squeeze him, sir, and scare him and impose sanctions? And finally, if I may, the elephant in the room, Lord Mandelson, he is no longer the ambassador. Do you have some sympathy with him that he lost his job over historic links to Jeffrey Epstein? Thank you very much, sir.
I don't know him, actually. I had heard that, and I think maybe the Prime Minister would be better speaking of that. That was a choice that he made, and I don't know. What is your answer to that?
Well, I mean, it's very straightforward. Some information came to light last week which wasn't available when he was appointed, and I made a decision about it, and that's very clear. On the question of the pressure on Putin and on Russia, which is obviously really important, look, I think it is a challenge to Europe. There are a number of European countries which are too reliant on energy from Russia. The UK actually obviously has almost got nothing at all, but we do need to bear down and work with our European counterparts here. There are one or two countries, I think, that do need to look again at the question of energy. There's no one silver bullet here. We do have to have a wider suite of sanctions, which we've put in place a number of times, working across Europe and with the United States. And, of course, we must, and we are, making sure that Ukraine is in the strongest position now, because one of my long concerns here has been that whilst we talk about a ceasefire, and we all want a ceasefire, and we talk about what might happen after a ceasefire, we mustn't forget that Ukraine needs our support now. And we've said we stand with Ukraine from the start to finish, and that means we must continue to supply them with what they need in order to fight this war, which, of course, resulted from and is a result of Russian aggression. We have particularly done the sort of leadership role in the coalition of the willing, so that if there is a ceasefire and if there is a deal, and I do hope there is, that is then lasting and not then broken, because given previous history, I don't trust Putin. Thank you.
Very simply, if the price of oil comes down, Putin's going to drop out. He's going to have no choice. He's going to drop out of that war. And when I found out that the European nations were buying oil from Russia, and as you know, I'm very close to India. I'm very close to the Prime Minister of India. I spoke to him the other day, wished him a happy birthday. We have a very good relationship. He put out a beautiful statement, too. We have, but I said, you know, I sanctioned them. China is paying a very large tariff right now to the United States. But I'm willing to do other things, but not when the people that I'm fighting for are buying oil from Russia. If the oil price comes down, very simply, Russia will settle. And the oil price is way down. You know, we got it way down. We're drilling and we produce more oil than anybody else in the world. We're doing a lot. But I was disappointed to see that. And the Prime Minister was disappointed to see that. And it wasn't him. It was other countries. And you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't. That's not playing fair with the United States. And we can't have that. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
are you, sir? Got to say hello in person. You should come back on. Still. You can always come. I appreciate it. You know what? We have to do more of this ourselves now. It's all the fashion, isn't it? Yeah, I noticed, when I asked the question about the recognition policy, you know there was a different position on that. They acknowledged the disagreement explicitly. It's quite gentle. And whilst acknowledging that they've had their discussion in private about why they are where they are on that particular issue. So it's similarly, I guess, with the conversation about Russia and Ukraine, and the fact that the President and the Prime Minister totally shut it down.
Yes. In fact, I mean, when I asked if the problem with the British ambassador had been sacked over his exit connection, Donald Trump said, I don't know it. Talking about Lord Manson.
Even though he had based his accent in the White House.
Yes, and they've met many times. Yeah. No, I thought if that, though, is what the Prime Minister has won out of this visit, the right to respectfully disagree with the President, but not to change his mind, was it worth it?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Well, I think Dan's calculation would be in the end that they got through that meeting. So, if you like, the positive feeling, and that they have a sufficiently good relationship with the President that he will hear them out in private, specific to the British position that might be at odds with America. But the question about the extent to which the UK, and perhaps other European allies and similar positions on some topics, can persuade the President, it seems to me is the more open question.
I didn't get the impression that Keir Starmer had changed the President's mind on anything at all, except perhaps a few views of that.
Which is probably fairly well sort of disclosed. Cheers. No, not at all. Right, I'll charge. See you guys later. Thanks a lot. Is it?
Get them on as soon as we can, yeah? What time is it? Let's try and get them on now. Try and get you on top of the hour. I don't know if they'll have cut that clip yet.
They have the answer to your question, but they don't have it.
No, he didn't have a question.
Bev's question. Whose question?
No, not Bev's question. I asked them to cut the son's
Small Bev, that was the best question.
That's fine, the answer. That's what
they've only got the answer, not the actual.
Yeah, no, I don't want the question.
It's small Bev.
Yes.
Is it Christian?
Now,
it is.
They're going to draft this interview, toss this interview, and come straight to you. I'll be in the
I asked them to cut something.
Still being punished for more extreme. Not yet.
Have they got that clip then? The answer to the son's question.
On what topic? What topic then?
Yeah,
that's good. That's
we
right.
don't want the question in the army. It's the first question.
Thank you. So can I photo that, please? Can I photo that?
Yeah, it's called military. Yeah.
Already? Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, 30 seconds. They can cut that for later. Yeah, it's when it's on replay, it's part and ready to go. The answer, so you can just do the precursor to it, yeah, Chris?
What's the plan?
Just do the precursor, because obviously it's marked up on the answer.
Yeah.
So just,
Talk about going
just lead into it with the question, the President's asked, what would you do in our situation? Yeah?
It's really helpful what you did there, because I've got my notes all over the place.
Literally just the key things I've got, extract key lines. And they kept flashing up there.
I think I'll be delighted with that. President Trump disagreed with Keir Starmer, sure, on quite a few important things.
Yes, it's not a pleasure to be told to rush back and maybe
All good, mate. All good, thank you. I can hear it clearly, yeah, thank you.
Tiny step back to your left. Tiny step. That's it, sir.
And then there were the unexploded witnesses. There was nothing really quite contrary on the MC like Manson. In fact, Donald Trump faces Google Manson slots. And nothing at all on Nigel Farage. So I think chalk this one up as being success.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I'm going to sit here and recommend it quickly.
Yeah.
When they see me, point the camera down when they see me, so they know I'm here.
Because you couldn't have hoped for that going. Donald Trump was in one of those kind of reflective, I don't want to say low energy, but sort of not quite in one of those
going to say I wasn't called. I wasn't chosen for question on number 10. I'm going to say that. I'm sitting in the front row with my hand in it. Literally 6 feet from the President and Sir Keir Starmer, of course, our Prime Minister. It seemed very friendly. I think the two appear to get on very well. They've met, by my count, once every 8 weeks since he became President. So they meet quite a lot, and they have forged this rather unusual relationship between two such different politicians, one from the left, Sir Keir Starmer, one from the right, of course, the President of the United States. But they rode across all sorts of areas there. A big issue coming up, I thought, the American journalist asked a question about Palestine this weekend to Sir Keir Starmer. Are you waiting until the guy next to you leaves the country on Air Force One before you recognise the state of Palestine? That was awkward, I think, for Keir Starmer, but the slap on the back was very welcome, according to number 10A. Clearly, when Keir Starmer said we're not going to have Hamas running Gaza, that can't happen. That was a big slap on the back, and that wouldn't happen with the recognition of Palestine. Difficult questions on issues of freedom of speech. Sir Keir Starmer there saying we are the home of free speech and making those points, but asked several times, twice about that. He gave that answer. But I thought the most interesting answer, I think, was one about small boats. What would you do to stop the boats? And the answer from Donald Trump, well, it had much more bang for its buck than Sir Keir Starmer. Here's what the answer was.
Behind closed doors, they've established this water report, and I think actually what we got a bit of in public was the way in which Sir Keir Starmer manages to smooth over those points of difference and maintain the report.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, we saw some elements of Donald Trump in terms of some of the things that he returns from time to time again, which will be a bit bewildering to our viewers watching. There's this whole question about Joe Biden's use of the auto pen. These things do come up and come up.
There we have Donald Trump there saying, why can't you be called the military, and something which has been said often by reform UK politicians here. And also news there on Afghanistan. The UK is trying to get back the Bagram Air Base, which Joe Biden, when he was president, he surrendered that to the Taliban, didn't he? But the Bagram Air Base, of course, 1 hour, he said, from where China develops its nuclear weapons, or have a nuclear facility at least in China. So clearly, America is thinking around the world on this strategic level. But yes, interesting. I think it was an informative press conference, one much more friendly, I think, than you see with France and America. I thought in many ways we're back to where we are with this country. Are we going to choose to be the US's best friend or towards the European Union? Again, it was somewhere in the middle. You wouldn't want to.
I think that's right. I think you heard that in his tone, didn't you? He was, I wouldn't say overwhelmed, but he was clearly subdued by what had happened. Elated perhaps, but also subdued.
Exactly right. He did say there, drill baby drill, wind is a disaster, a very expensive joke. He said you have these huge assets in the North Sea, and he sort of implied though that the PM would start exploiting those assets. We haven't seen any sign of that. And of course, Ed Miliband, the Climate Change Secretary,
would be a lot against that. But yeah, there are divisions here. I think one of the few real divisions was over Palestine, and that's likely to be recognised by the UK government this weekend or early next week before the UN General Assembly meet. But yes, it was a friendly conversation between two close allies. I had my hand in the air, Martin, with your best question. Sadly, I wasn't selected by number 10 Downing Street to ask a question today, but I'll keep my hand in the air all the time for GB News viewers. I thought though.
So there's maybe some movement on that.
Well, I thought the question, I mean, Ben's question was brilliant, of course. It was asking about the issue of Christianity, and the America is a big issue in America, laying out your faith on your sleeve. We don't do it as much amongst our leaders. But I did hear, I never heard Sir Keir Starmer say that I am a Christian. I've been Christianity or Christian all my life. He said he had been christened, and that's not what we hear from him. We do know, of course, he observed the Jewish faith on Friday with his wife, Lady Starmer. But I think I've never heard him do God, if that's how you describe those remarks. And that was quite interesting. And I think Bev Turner pressed him, of course, on issues of freedom of speech, which is so important to us. Great. Yeah, you hit the plane at the I liked having the in my hand the stick. It looked good that day. It was pissed off with the podcast.
Oh, really? No, she was kind of compromised, but I was so keen to hold the data. Anyway, she looked around to me. She's the fashion. She's not used to this process. It's like you or I are used to the process. Because I would say to that what they're going to. I think what come up anyway. Yeah, you go.
there he is. Good. Maybe a red tie. So over to the way to solve the issue and very help board Marine One. Walk around the back of it. Melania Trump, where the brown place is boarding down Marine One.
Yes, and Harris, as you look at these.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Got to that. End of transmission in 1 second. Got a gallery clear, just waiting for the technical clear, but I think I've got it. Full sound, because that generates that. Clear, 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 clear. Wonderful. Happy the gallery director. That's whatever. 2.5. You want one pre-record or two? Do they want one for the other chairs? Do they want one?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3.
All right. All right.
Hello. Yes, okay.
Yeah. Remember?
Yeah. The draft,
so,
yeah.
So basically, one pre-record just for Prime, generic one, just going to take a couple of minutes, yeah?
Yeah.
To sum it up. And then the other one, specifically for the late show.
Yeah.
With the points that you made. Do you remember what you said?
What is the late show? Is not starting on Monday.
Yeah, they're piloting sometimes they still use on social media.
That's the one.
Really good job. We're just going to do this.
Yeah.
One other one.
If you can keep that.
What's the late show one? But is that the late show? It's one I've got two.
One of them.
That plays out on the prime show tonight. Yeah. Can you call that to me at that level?
It's really only
yeah. There's crisps. I'm a bit hangry. Yeah, or just a biscuit. It's a massive, what is it? Huge Johannesburg. When you're sitting on a chair, as you're on air, that's a moment. Yeah. That's why I just leant forward my knee and quite freaky. I was rocking on it, that's what happened. Yeah, you are, you're doing it wrong. You both are brilliant. Yeah, I kept doing. I leant forward on my knee and stepped in. Huh? I think I was rocking.
See you.
Video here, do you think? Great. Very good. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, program, okay, yeah. Chris? Yeah, program, yeah.
It's really you asking.
Plain boast.
I think you're still talking into that song. I think you're still talking
into the immigration socks.
I'm going to go and get you something to eat. Would you want me to wait and then we go together? Do you want to get this hit out of the way?
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. It didn't matter that I wasn't called because Ben was in there. We had a voice in the press conference.
I always said, we've got 50-50 chance because we've got two people out there we're better off. We've got cover. I knew she was going to call, but it's not about that. It's about
your first point on the small boat issue was most resonant. The President said, you have people coming in, and I told the PM I would stop it. Donald Trump told Sir Keir Starmer, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use, because it destroys countries from within. And now we're removing the people that came into the country in the US. That's what he means there. He's very clear. Why not call out the military? Listen to what you have to say. I went too soon to that. Sorry. Apologies. I thought that. I thought you wanted that. Sorry, Daryl. I'll pick up. I'll pick up. Yes. I thought you that. Yeah, it's fine. Daryl. I won't. Not even for you. So that's it. A lesson now on controlling the small boats crisis on the very day that one person, I think of Indian origin, was sent back to France, and that was billed, of course, by Sir Keir Starmer as his scheme working. Also on the issue of wind farms, yet again, we know he hates them. Donald Trump, not a big fan. Wind is a very expensive joke, he said. We have a very good asset, he says, in the UK. It's called the North Sea, didn't he? He made very clear the North Sea oil is phenomenal. He said, my mother was born in Scotland, in the Hebrides. That's serious, you know, we're serious Scotland we're talking about. I want this country to do well. He loves this country. That's very clear from what you were saying there. And in fact, the entire visit, he looked, in parts, deeply moved. Martin, you saw him, of course, in Windsor yesterday when he met the King and the Queen. You have great assets, he said. You're going to start using, I believe, under this Prime Minister. Drill, baby, drill, he told our Prime Minister. Also, Vladimir Putin over Ukraine has really let me down. I think it looks like we're seeing Donald Trump come back to where the UK has been for many months now. He's killing many people, and he's losing more people than he's killing. I mean, Russian soldiers are being killed at a higher rate than the Ukrainian soldiers, and that is the concern, the clear concern. And that question from Bev Turner on faith, we heard a response. Sir Keir Starmer saying, I'm a Christian, I was christened, although he does of course observe the Jewish faith on Fridays. Interesting to hear him talk about his faith, which we haven't heard before from this Prime Minister. Overall though, this visit, away from the pomp and circumstance, Martin, is about trade, is about jobs in this country. £250 billion worth of trade deals agreed. We've always been friends. Donald Trump said he called Sir Keir Starmer a tough negotiator who got a better deal than he would have got. That was denied by Keir Starmer. But we're seeing an economic security deal signed soon, as well as this £250 billion tech deal. Clearly the special relationship is moving out of defence and security and into trade and jobs. And again it goes back to where is our role in the world. Are we going towards the European Union or the US? It feels now, today, in checkers, like it's the US. Well, quite. That's a great question. Unanswered. I mean, we heard from the Prime Minister saying that around 6 a.m. today, the first flight took off, taking a single migrant arrived here in August back to France. This migrant, we understand, was originally from India. Why not fly to India? Well, he came here from France, so it's a French problem now. But yeah, if you step back, why can't we see firmer action involving the military? Nigel Farage, a former UK leader, he has said as much. Zia Youssef, in charge of policy at reform, he has said as much. America is not tied into the European Convention on Human Rights, the right Article 8, the right to a family life. That is one of the reasons why we have our efforts to take migrants back to the continent frustrated. He hasn't got that problem in America. He's willing to use the military in ways we wouldn't. He's enforcing a land border, we've got a sea border, that's harder to enforce. But yeah, lessons here, I think, for the Prime Minister, from the President. No, that guy there, Donald Trump, he loves this country, he's proud of his roots to Scotland through his mother, he loves coming in here, he's an Anglophile President. That's a great thing for this country and helps us with getting those deals done, an investment on AI, on quantum that we heard earlier from Donald Trump. But definitely a lesson there in maybe just throwing off the shackles, Keir Starmer, and stop those boats, because in my view, if he can't stop those boats, that will be the single reason why he might lose the next general election. Did you get the salute? I gave Martin the salute.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Right.
You should have leaned forward and saluted him before you shake his hand. Right,
Well, you'd be great.
Do these do this anyone. Well, yeah, while you've got to do it, I said you you've got to do an Asline and a tease. Look at your
No, I know.
and then the tease.
Thank you.
So will you
To get
stay
to
with
for you
us?
there.
Well,
Okay, I'll do that later. That's fine.
Let's have a go. Let's have one go.
Yeah, I'll just go and do it. You do it. You've got this really. I mean, it's just some of the day to do the tease has to start. And I've been here at Czech. I was here at Czech because obviously it's a newsletter before that. That's me.
I think I went to quite early in the
Well,
year.
that wasn't the point. The point is the gallery wasn't.
So is it ultimately the best part of the way?
This is my first one. Quite small, but I do it.
But it was yeah, go. No, I said it's you personally. Yeah. So have a look at it. Just read that still. And the last bit is, you know.
Do they drive the same?
And I've been here.
Yep. Let's start with that, shall we? Yeah.
Okay, I'll go into
I'll take my earpiece out.
Yeah, let's just flick it off your back.
Was it funny when I wiped out?
Yeah, it's so funny.
Because I was on air.
Yeah.
So what I did, I just leaned forward and just kept talking.
Yeah, you saved it well. You saved it well. Me and Tom was crying.
Oh, God.
Roll in whenever you're ready.
Think it through. Ready? And I'm here in Chequers, the UK Prime Minister's country home, where the end of this two-day visit has been spelled out by Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer. Oh, I'll start this. It's a tease, not a hit. Yeah. And I'm here in Chequers, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. And I'm here in Chequers, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's country home, where the US and UK have agreed a £250 billion tech deal. But the fun happened in the press conference, where Donald Trump had some lessons on how to tackle both the issue of the oil and... sorry. I know what I'm trying to say, I'm just a bit... Sorry, Joe. Cut that, end that, delete that, please.
Yeah, I mean, you can take your mind back to February, beginning of this year,
And I'm here in Chequers, the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's country home, for the second day of the historic state visit. Deals worth £250 billion agreed, inward investment into the UK, and some lessons from Donald Trump on how to tackle that small boat crisis and how to drill baby drill in the North Sea. Stay tuned. That's good, I think. Yep. Now a tease, now a thing.
So yeah, that's and I think
I'm doing it now.
yeah, sure, okay. You know, we've worked out how we can respect. We've also got concrete stuff coming as well. no 10% tariff. It's higher than it used to be, but it's not as high as some countries around the world. They say that's the result of the relationship we built between Pakistan and
I can't get my head together.
there are some concrete things that happen. There's a log jam over steel and aluminium tariffs that are 25% on British exporters. We know that steel exporters are well down on what they used to be because of that. And no deal has been got over the line on that when they were very hopeful of. Much of the investment that you mentioned earlier is still to be actually committed or committed, but it's still to be spent. When you're talking about $90 billion of private equity, let's see when it appears and what it goes into. So there are still lots and lots of questions, but I think they would say you'd rather be in Keir Starmer's position than some other of America's allies.
The way-ins probably on the trade.
And elsewhere in Europe as well, they will believe that they built something pretty strong on this basis of this special relationship. Donald Trump, through his words,
And finish. Sorry, Joe, bring your head together. So we've done the T's.
Yeah, there are occasionally Donald Trump, no more occasionally, pretty regularly Donald Trump goes off on a kind of a little meander on some issues that are a little surprising. We got the auto pen against didn't we, from Joe Biden, the auto pen. The background thing did strike me. There were some references earlier in the year where the president seemed to suggest that China was controlling the background. There's the biggest air base in Afghanistan. It's the centre of kind of military presence and occupation when the US were in Afghanistan. Two big runways, huge base there, about sort of, I don't know, 40 miles.
Shall I start this thing?
And the president suggested somehow the Chinese have now got control of that under the Taliban. Today, somehow that they were going to, yes, the US might get it back. It sort of ties into a suggestion that, when Joe Biden left Afghanistan, when America left Afghanistan under the Biden regime, on some of
It's for the
there should have been a deal, there was some deal to hold on to the background. Joe Biden followed through on somehow we get to reinvigorate that, but it was incredibly out of nowhere.
sorry, no, my head's together on this.
Let's see. Hopefully these are going to plenty of time to go back to an official and say, what's going on? Because on the face of this, it's terribly likely the Taliban are going to hold hand over the background of Donald Trump.
Let's have a go. How's it going, buddy?
Still here for a while.
Yeah, ready. Okay.
I don't think we're hearing any new ideas, are we? I mean, the one thing Donald Trump has said today, which he has been saying recently, is that he believes that Europe is a problem because he believes it's still dependent on Russian energy and Russian oil. That's become a real theme for him at the moment. He's been saying that
President Donald J. Trump is on his way back to the US after a historic two-day state visit to the UK. President Donald Trump is now on the way back to Washington, D.C. after a historic and successful two-day visit to the UK. It ended here in Chequers with a trade deal worth £250 billion on technology agreed between the US and the UK. It couldn't have gone any better, frankly, for Sir Keir Starmer. Elements were not discussed or not at least announced, nothing for the British Steel. So we'll go.
said that before, and said it in more colourful terms. So, some new ideas on that. We know that there are agreements between
We've done the teas. I'm just struggling over the washer. Give it an hour. Tea and coffee.
But then he just said, you agree.
Yeah. There were two of the same. Mine. Rabbit food. What is this? Yeah, no. One more go on this. I'm still getting towards it. Okay. So Keir Starmer's on the way back to. Sorry. Donald Trump's flying back to the States. Been a successful two-day historic visit. Yesterday, the King and Queen. Today, the trade deal covered everything from AI to quantum, etc. Nothing on steel, nothing on AI protections for creators here. But it was gone as well as it could, and even the press conference passed off with that. And he kind of, yeah, exactly. On small boats. Exactly. Yeah. Well, we're going to get onto that. And even to our own Bev Turner. Historic. Yeah, he's let him down, felt let down. That's okay. Okay. President Donald Trump is on his way back to Washington, D.C. after what will be seen as a successful two-day state visit to the UK. In two parts. It started with his meeting with the royal family at Windsor Castle and the pomp and circumstance of a state dinner on last night. And today, here in Chequers, the Prime Minister's country residence, getting down to the brass tacks of a trade deal on technology. £250 billion worth of investment across AI, nuclear, quantum. A big deal for America and a big deal for UK countries. But also there was a difficult issue of navigating a press conference for Sir Keir Starmer. We know how they can go on and range across all sorts of areas when they're hosted by Donald Trump. This one was chaired by Keir Starmer and was much more focused, with a few chosen journalists allowed to ask questions, and Sir Keir Starmer taking them in good spirit. Some areas though of disagreement, notably over the small boats issue. Now the